How you doing, Duff here? This is my latest automotive project, which happens to be changing the O2 sensor on a 1990 Miata. The reason that I am replacing the sensor is because it's throwing a check engine light. With a 1990, it doesn't have the newer ODB-I or ODB2 connector. It has ODB1 diagnostics, which means in order to read the code, I had to go to the diagnostic connector under the hood and jumper the ground. I don't know if you can see that, probably not. The ground and the TEN terminal together. That's what allows you to actually read the code. So once that's in place, if you turn the car on, it should flash the check engine light in a series. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, check engine light went off. One flash, pause, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and it'll just keep repeating that cycle. One flash, pause, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that equates to code 15. And if you look up code 15 online for a 1990 Miata, that will tell you that it is the O2 sensor, which is a common thing to go bad. The O2 sensor on this vehicle is over here on the exhaust manifold, down there. Looking at the wire, looks like not sure if it's the original sensor or not. I'd be surprised if it is on a 23-year-old vehicle. But I guess I'll let you know when I pull it out. The car is hot. They recommend these can be a bitch to get out, so it's actually better if the exhaust manifold is hot. I'm going to wear gloves though to protect myself. I also bought two things to help me get it out. Figuring if one didn't work, the other would. This is a 22mm open end wrench, which is what a O2 sensor typically is, 22mm fitting. And this is an O2 sensor socket, which allows you to slide it over an O2 sensor and get it out of there. It actually, if you see here, there's a groove. Might not be able to see it, but there's a groove that allows it to go over the wire, so you wouldn't have to cut the wire to get the socket on. So I'm going to use one of these two things to hook it up and see if I can crank it out, see how tight it is. The electrical connection for the O2 sensor is over here on the intake side of the engine. It's not this one, it's this behind here. So I'm going to pop that loose. It should just be a single wire connection on the other side. And we'll get that disconnected and then work on cranking out the actual sensor itself. Okay, right there's the O2 sensor disconnected. It's a single wire. I've read something online about a popular conversion to do in the past was convert the O2 sensor from a one-wire setup to a four-wire setup. Luckily it looks like this one did not do that conversion. I'm not really sure what it gets you, but anyways. Now it's time to try to crank it out. Well, I was expecting a much harder fight than that. That wasn't hard at all to get on. I used the socket, the O2 sensor socket, slipped it over the wire like this. Like that. Attach my breaker bar to it, like that, and just a little crank and it was loose. So I'm pretty sure it was not the original sensor, because it would normally be a lot tighter than that, I would think. But yeah, it came out real easy. Definitely have to, maybe it's because it was so hot, I don't know, because I mean it was just driven 20 miles, so the engine was very hot, hence wearing the gloves. Definitely wear the gloves, protecting my hands, otherwise they would have been sticking to the exhaust manifold. So anyways, old one's out. I'm going to get the new one, which is right here. Okay, there's the old one and the new one side by side. This one was purchased at AutoZone. It's a Denso, part number 2341024, roughly $50. Right online, there's a bunch of people that will go a cheaper route and buy like a universal Bosch oxygen sensor, O2 sensor. The only difference is that it doesn't come, it's not complete, it doesn't have the end on it, so you have to actually solder, or not solder, but splice in to your existing connector. So that's a cheaper way to do it. Save yourself some money, and supposedly guys don't have problems with that. I've heard good success, but I opted just to get the whole deal to simplify things. So now I'm going to thread the new one back in. One thing they include is some anti-seize, which you want to just put on the threads, make sure it does not get on the sensor itself, the new sensor itself. But that will, if it ever has to get replaced, that will make the job much easier. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the anti-seize on the old sensor made it easier, but just make sure to apply it. Okay, new sensor's in place, just threaded it in by hand and then used my 22mm wrench to tighten it down. Again, using gloves because it's still hot. Now I just need to route the wire up here to the connector over there. Okay, to clear the check engine light codes in the computer, just going to remove the battery, negative lead, for maybe a minute, and just to make sure that it's discharged, hit the horn button. That should do it. Just hold down the horn button for a little bit. And then I'm going to wait a minute, reconnect the battery, and try to start the car, make sure it still runs. And if everything goes as intended, it will, and we will no longer see a check engine light. And hopefully it'll run a little bit better as well, so I'll be right back. Okay, the battery is reconnected. Let's try to start this sucker. And it works. Check engine light, when it would come on, though, typically wouldn't happen until you do some driving. So until you put some mileage on this, you can't 100% guarantee that it's fixed, but I certainly hope it would be with the new sensor in there. Just one thing of note, I'm sure that that was not the original sensor, just not only because it turned out so easy, but also I remember when I was looking up instructions on this, they were talking about the heat shield getting in the way in this, and I don't, maybe they're talking about this heat shield here, I guess, but it's not in the way, especially if you use an open-end box wrench or one of those socket tools. I was wondering if something was pulled off, but no, I think everything's in place. But anyways, job is a success. Total time, if I wasn't filming, might have been 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So you too can definitely change the O2 sensor on your 1990 Miata yourself. If I can do it, you can do it. That's it. Duffman out.